Hello, welcome to another edition of the Evening Rainbows. I remain the anchor Chigozie Ndibo. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this edition of the Evening's Rumble once again. Trust you're getting on well. Yes, 201 billion has been, of course, set aside for the cleanup of the adulterated premium spirit of locally known as petrol by the said NNPC. 201 billion. You can't imagine, of course, how extravagant and the cost. Of course, it might cost the Nigerian states. We should be looking at the fundamentals and the intrigues, of course, surrounding this saga. Could it be an orchestrated, of course, designed to loot more, of course, from the Nigerian treasury? How could you convince an average Nigerian on the street that you just want to mop up the adulterated premium spirit, and that will cost the Nigerian state 201 billion? Of course, we shall be looking into this. Yes, here we go once again. Another topical issue we should be considering this evening is borders on the position of the Nigerian state and its legal counsel to the Nnamdi Kanu's case. They declared, give us breathing space. Give us breathing space. Nigerian legal defense, of course, legal defense are asking that the legal counsel to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu should give them some breathing space rather than bombarding them from front and back. I mean, so many legal suits, of course, hanging on the air, which they claim that the leader or the legal counsel to the indigenous people of Biafra, or the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, are laying legal ambush or suit against the Nigerian state. Could it be an expression of frustration on the part of the said legal defense to or legal counsel to the Nigerian state? Or do we have any other, of course, interpretation to this effect? Or are they trying to, of course, circumvent the cost of justice and by way of delaying the process of justice, seeing, of course, that they have no substantial evidence or any case to make against the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra and, of course, Biafra at large? Well, time will tell. Why should they demand such a, of course, unwarranted, of course, raise such unwarranted issue when, of course, people are looking to expedite the cause of this justice, and they're asking to buy more time to prepare or to wear their shoes, or time to knot, of course, to knot their ties, or time to polish their shoes and their dress, iron their legaria, whatever that may be. Well, time will tell. Another topical issue, a more exciting one, is that coming from Galadima of the northern elites, who made a very assertive position that the greatest mistake Nigeria has ever made, of this current dispensation have ever made, is the arrests of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. At his arrest, of course, he has become more popular than ever. The Biafran agitation or cause has dominated the international and global dimension. Could it be a blessing in disguise? The arrest of the indigenous people of Biafra could have, in a way, become a blessing indeed for the people of the indigenous people of Biafra at the end of the day. We shall be looking at, of course, throwing more light on this topical issues. Yes, honestly, starting right away, of course, the greatest mistake made by this administration of the Buhari's regime is the arrest of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. These have given, of course, according to the Galadima, has given, of course, the struggle of the restoration of the Biafran state a more global, of course, dimension, a more global acceptance and publication. Could this be, of course, a blessing in disguise? This is the greatest, of course, mistake that have shattered the Nigerian state and will forever remain indelible in the history of mankind. That, of course, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu ended up becoming a prisoner of conscience, which, on the basis that he is only asking for the preservation of his own people and the safety and protection of his own people, who, of course, do not feel any sense of belonging and considers, of course, their continued existence within the Nigerian arrangement or program as a threat to not just the present existing people, but to, of course, the posterity at large. And coming from a known and a very prominent and outspoken northern political elite, Galadima has been, of course, one of the notable people who he even, of course, from the northern region, who at the end of his statement congratulated the entire IPOB, of course, for the resilience and commitment to this cause, which, of course, they believe and are willing to lay down their lives should, of course, the needs becomes necessary. Defending thee shall be our ultimate goal, shall be our ultimate task, according to what are some of the lyrics of the Biafran anthem. Oh, well, could it be the victory at last for the indigenous people of Biafra, having been acknowledged from a very prominent, of course, political heavyweight from the Nigerian political sphere, a sphere from the, of course, the northern extraction. Is it that the Buhari's led administration is still living in denial, have not come in cognizance with this true position by another statement from the northern extraction, who, of course, have congratulated the Biafran people in advance? Is there anything that is, of course, under his preview that we are not, or that is not at the preview of the public? Or is there anything we are not being told about the struggle? Could it be that we are at just the eve of announcing the Biafran state? Well, time will tell, but the fundamental issue remains that indeed his position is not, of course, out of place. Indeed, that was the greatest mistake the Nigerian people ever made. And, of course, they grossly violated international laws, diplomatic law, of extraditing the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra in what is known as extraordinary rendition. And having seen, of course, that the Nigerian state violated the principles of international law, could not in any way preside over this case, and the legal counsel to the Nigerian state are asking for the opponents or the legal counsel to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and the indigenous people of Biafra to give them breathing space so that they can plan out their time and strategize, so they can consult, of course, their compendiums or their encyclopedia, legal encyclopedia, in preparation for what I consider the greatest legal battle in the history of mankind, where, of course, justice is pitching against inequality, injustice, and all sorts of dehumanizing situation. You can see that Mazen Nnamdi Kanu has been subjected to such level of cruelty, even from the detention of the DSS. Even when, as stipulated by the Nigerian law, he is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Why should the Nigerian states continue to take law into their hands? Well, time will tell how far this can be sustained. Coming down to the NNPC, of course, budgeting 201 billion naira in cleaning up the so-called mess, of which, of course, they can't absorb themselves of its complexity. Now, could it be a way of course, deepening the already rotten system, creating an avenue for people to continue to exploit the Nigerian state, even when out of every $100 naira, Nigeria spends 93 naira in servicing of debt, and you want to set aside 201 billion in just cleaning up of the so-called adulterated fuels that had been deposited. Of course, unfortunately, this couldn't have been possible if not, of course, due to the rottenness and the misplacement of priority and negligence of duty on the set part of the NNPC, which is now incurring to the tune of 201 billion naira will be got off. Now, I want to bring your attention to just to clean up a little mess. Why for over 55 years, the organic cleanup has been begging the Nigerian state to come to their aid. The Niger Delta's environment have been desecrated, the ecosystem have been destroyed, their farmlands, the sea, the water bodies have been destroyed, even the animals, the sea animals has been grossly affected. This is the place where exploration and spillage of oil, of course, has been sustained for close to 60 years and or more, because I think the exploration started around 1954 or thereabout, when Nigerian discovered the first oil. Ever since, there has not been any deliberate attempt or conscious or attempt or program on the part of the said government to alleviate the sufferings of this, of course, indigenous people who owns the oil. Did having oil in their land become a curse or a blessing over time? It's very unfortunate. Of course, they flagged off this organic cleanup, but ever since that has been commissioned, nothing has been done in respect to that, and there is more sustained degradation of the ecosystem, and the oil is spilling that is, of course, out of place. And yet the Nigerian states have not deemed it necessary. What's a callous state? What's an irresponsible state? And now you just want to spend 201 billion naira to clean up just a mere, of course, orchestrated, of course, avenue to extort the Nigerian people. What a shame. And you have seen the level of injustice meted on the old Eastern region, or after the aftermath of the Biafran War. There have not been any reconstruction, rehabilitation, and of course reconciliation becomes almost impossible, having neglected the agreement or the treaty established, which would have of course encouraged reintegration and of course promote coexistence. Look at what is happening. You just want to use 201 billion naira to clean up the NNPC depot. Why a particular region is neglected, where the 99 or 90% of the money revenue used to run this country come from, and you have neglected them and thinking there will be peace, promoting peace on the basis of falsehood, on the basis of injustice, intimidation, and coercion, using the instruments of the state against a people who has already been marginalized, subjugated, and of course sidelined out, and of course politically sidelined out of the scheme of events of this so-called Nigerian program. What could be the next action by the said people? Haven't heard, of course, the intention of the NNPC or the responsible body to set aside 201 billion to clean up the depots and reservoirs, why their own community and their farmlands and fatherlands on heritage has been lost to oil spillage and degradation sustained for barely 60 years or 60 decades and still counting. Well, in our next edition, we will continue to analyze, of course, the political happenings across the Nigerian state as it borders on our social, cultural, religious, and of course economic life. But until I see you then, don't forget to subscribe, like our videos, and share as much as you can. By so you are of course encouraging us, of course, to have a more broader view. God bless you. Remain blessed until we see next time. Chigozie Ndigo.